Released by Namco in 1995 on the Super Famicom and later ported to the PlayStation, Game Boy Advance, PlayStation Portable, and Mobile, Tales of Phantasia would be the premier entry of the Tales franchise. Directed by Eiji Kikuchi and written by Yoshiharu Gotanda, character design for this game, as well as most games in the main series, would be done by famed manga artist Kosuke Fujishima. Gotanda wrote the original novel the game is based off of, but as development of the game went on, internal division resulted in Gotanda and much of the development staff leaving and forming their own studio, Tri-Ace. For story, the game features a young warrior named Cress, joined by 5 other characters, though only 4 can be fielded in battle at a time. For gameplay, many series staples would be established, like cooking in an arena, as characters traverse an overworld dotted with dungeons and towns, entering random battles along the way. For combat, the linear motion battle system would be created to simulate fast tactical combat in real time like a 2D fighting game, focusing on movement, directional inputs, guarding, special attacks, and combos. Titles can be earned for normal and hidden actions, scenes, and minigames. Special attacks, later called arts, would be shouted out during combat, and a crafting system, later called cooking, would allow creation of better recovery items. Additionally, there would be multiple minigames, an overworld map utilizing Mode 7 technology, and multiplayer allowing for multiple party members to be controlled in combat. The game also underwent a tumultuous porting process, as when first ported to the PlayStation, audio and visual changes were improved, new gameplay content was added, but some plot elements were changed, and combat and story refinements made in the sequel Tales of Destiny were added in. Then, when ported to the Game Boy Advance, many technical aspects were downgraded to run on the hardware, improvements would be made to the combat, further changes would be made to both add new content and cut some content, and many names would be changed dramatically for an English translation. Then, a later port to the PlayStation Portable would include modern combat refinements added to the series and add a new 7th party member. Keep in mind, the Game Boy Advance version was the only console version released outside of Japan, and is the version that will be covered here. The story only gets larger from here, so let's cut it down to size with a recapitation. Set in the world of Aselia, the game begins in a battle where the Demon King Daos is struck down by a heroic party of 4, but before he dies, answers the indignation with powerful sorcery to send himself many years into the future. Though as fate would have it, his arrival was foreseen, as another heroic party was ready and waiting for him to appear in the future, as they trap him within a seal. Shocked to see his escape plan foiled so easily, he would be sealed between a pair of pendants. As one of the adventurers explains, this task was prepared and passed down for generations, and finally fulfilled. Another dozen or so years would pass, as within Toltus village, a young swordsman named Cress would be called by his father Miguel, as Miguel would prepare to tell him more about the pendant he gave him. However, Cress's friend, a hunter named Chester, would call him away for a practice hunt of their own that day. As they chased down a boar, Cress would spot a large dead tree, when suddenly the image of a woman asking him to protect the tree would flash before him. Succeeding in hunting down their quarry, they are surprised to hear the village's alarm bell ringing, and quickly return to the horrible sight of their village burned to the ground. Finding everyone slaughtered, Cress's mother uses her dying breath to tell him to go to his uncle in the city of Euclid, and they were after his pendant, but dies before revealing who. Chester sees his only family of his little sister Amy was also not spared, but refuses to leave without at least giving everyone a proper burial. He tells Cress to go on ahead and he'll catch up when they can both begin getting their revenge. Traveling to Euclid, Cress finds his uncle, who has already heard of the tragedy that occurred in Toltus, though that night his uncle alerts the city guard to capture Cress. He apologizes to his nephew, explaining he wanted to avoid the same happening here, as Cress is taken before a mysterious man in black who takes the pendant from him. Cress catches the deathly reflection of the man in the mirror, as soon after he is thrown in jail, he hears the voice of a woman in the adjacent cell. Through a small hole between their cells, she hands him an earring she claims he can use to escape, and choosing to believe her, he finds he can use it to blow open a weakness in the wall. He moves to free the woman and thank her, but sees no one but a woman's corpse impaled on a sword. Wondering what is going on, he pulls the sword from her body to use as he breaks out and finds another girl imprisoned here as well. He frees her and she introduces herself as Mint, and urges him to also free her mother, pointing to the cell he just left. Not wanting to let her see her mother's dead body, Cress leads her away as they work together to escape through the aqueducts, where Mint reveals she is blessed with the divine power to heal others. Exiting, Cress saves Mint from a sneak attack by a monster, but is knocked out, and hearing the guards coming for them, Mint shows impressive physical strength by carrying Cress to town on her back. When he wakes up, Cress is in the home of a man named Trinicus Morrison, and is surprised to be met by his friend Chester, who explains Morrison visited their village soon after Cress left. Morrison mentions he was looking for a black-armored man, and regrets arriving too late to help Miguel. As it turns out, he knew both of Cress's parents, and Mint's mother as well from way back, and asks Cress about the pendant his father gave him. Cress shares it was given to him as a gift, but was stolen by the black-armored man. A panicked Morrison then says he needs to head to the catacombs now, hoping he's not too late, as inside, Master Tristan, a man Cress and Chester knew from Toltis, is here as well, and likewise knows more of the situation. He also knew the band of Mint's mother, Cress's parents, and Morrison, and thinks the young crew should pursue Morrison, having faith in their skills. Eager to take action, the group prepares to leave, though Cress notes the earring he got in the dungeon is suddenly missing. Crawling through the catacombs, they catch up to Morrison, who is facing down the black-armored man named Mars, but is too late in stopping him from using Cress and Mint's pendants to break the seal on the tomb before them. As unstoppable power builds, Mars shares the history of the ancient king imprisoned here, as over 100 years ago, the War of Valhalla was waged between King Dow's and an alliance of the two greatest nations at the time. Morrison interrupts that despite his overwhelming power, his own ancestor was part of the group that defeated him, mentioning Cress and Mint are also descendants of members of that same group. Chester is more focused on the man before them that murdered his sister, but they are paused as the great sorcerer Dow's is finally restored. Mars claims credit for this deed and insists he now commands Dow's as his master, but the former king laughs at this impudence. He reveals he orchestrated Mars into freeing him from beyond and fires a beam at him, easily annihilating Mars in a single attack. He then turns to call out Morrison and the descendants of those who imprison him, as Morrison quickly mentions he cannot be defeated by normal weapons and they need to flee now and find a method of defeating him, handing them a book. Chester tries to buy them time but is easily swatted aside as Mint and Cress are warped away, and Dow's laughs, recognizing Morrison actually sent them back in time, and notes he must be pretty weak if he cannot travel himself, quickly obliterating him. Cress and Mint now wake up in an unfamiliar area and enter the nearby village. Talking to the village elder, Lenios, they have never heard of the town of Toltis or the concept of divine power, but they have heard of magic, which Cress has never heard of. When they see the amazing power of magic firsthand, they wonder if this is the power to defeat Dow's, as the villagers clamor that Dow's is both feared and despised across the land. Mint realizes they must have been sent to a time before Dow's was imprisoned, and after learning the year, confirm it to be over a century before their time. Regardless, magic is believed to be the only thing that can harm Dow's, but unfortunately as pure humans they cannot use magic. Lenios explains he has elfish blood, and only those with pure or part elfish blood can use magic, so their best option is finding someone strong with magic already. He recommends a man named Klaus, a magic teacher living in Euclid, which is only a small village at this time. As they rest for the night, Cress wonders if they can change history and actually defeat Dow's here in the past, and the next day they visit Klaus in his home, though he's skeptical of their claims to be from the future. He also reveals to them he's also pure human and cannot use magic either, though believes it is possible, and is researching summoning as the first step towards it alongside his assistant Millard. Taking them along to show them, he explains summoning is all about making pacts with spirits, which can later be summoned, but requires a special pact ring and is very dangerous to do. He's here to contact the wind spirit and speaks to a man with the valuable pact ring looking to barter for it. The man says he will actually give it to them in exchange for them finding his daughter Arch, who went missing a few days ago, and they agree to help. Climbing the windy mountain, they note the local wildlife has gone insane from miasma that Klaus explains must be seeping from a rift between this world and the underworld named Demonium. Humans can tolerate the miasma somewhat, but not spirits, and so they move to reseal the rift. Descending down into Demonium, they find it full of deadly demons they doubt they can defeat. Sneaking around and plugging up the holes, they return to the surface and meet the wind spirit Sylph, who commends their deeds. Klaus asks for a pact, and Sylph agrees, but says there is something else they need to help with, else the pact is for nothing. She explains magic is fading from their world, and without it, both magic and spirits will be lost forever. If they want to learn more, they need to speak to the great tree Yggdrasil in the Forest of Spirits, and the spirit within may be able to tell them what they can do. They also ask Sylph about Arch, but she hasn't seen her here, as they complete the pact to gain her as a summon. When they go over to see the great tree, Cress recognizes it as the same dead tree that spoke to him in his original time. The tree spirit comes out, introducing itself as Martel, and warning them the end is near. She explains mana, the source of all magic and spirits, comes from this tree, and though Klaus is skeptical, Cress affirms in the future both this tree and magic are dead and unheard of. Martel mentions normal mana depletion from magic is not enough to cause harm, but something bigger is the problem, and she doesn't know what it is as she disappears. Not sure where to begin, Klaus thinks of his research and recalls that Luna is the most powerful spirit, and her pact ring lies in an ancient dwarven mine of Morlia. Since the mines are in the kingdom of Alvanista, who possesses the most advanced magic in the world, they may have an idea what is massively draining the world's mana. As they travel, they find a devastated village, and a girl as its sole survivor, saying a mage named Demetel destroyed it and killed everyone, including her parents. Empathizing with her, Cress offers to help her track down Demetel and get revenge, and as thanks, Rhea joins along as a guest. Following clues towards Demetel's island castle, they charter a ship there and confront the mage. Demetel points out Rhea's already dead, so she cannot be trusted, but when they see he is a demonic denizen, they opt to fight him anyway. Destroying him, Rhea thanks them and asks them to take care of her friend here as her spirit passes on, leaving a girl behind who is confused to where she is. The girl says her name is Arch, and realizing she is the missing girl they were seeking, they take her back to her father. They learn that Arch loaned her body to the vengeful spirit of her murdered friend Rhea, and Klaus notes that's something only a skilled magic user could have done. As Arch comes out now, sporting her signature ponytail and exposing her half-elf ears, she thanks them for helping her and her friend. She gives them 2 pact rings as gifts from her father, and offers her magic and broom riding skills to aid the party in return. Accepting her into the group, they continue their seafaring into Alvinista, as Klaus talks to Crest to the side, and, for purely research purposes, asks him which of the 2 girls he'd rather have for himself, as Mint is a nice girl with a nice body, but Arch is probably more fun in bed. Their conversation is interrupted as a swordsman named Maya greets them, sharing he also has business in the mines of Morlia. As they share a meal during the trip, Crest and Mint bow out early as Klaus and Maya get along very well, drinking far into the night alongside Arch, who falls asleep to provocative dreams of Crest. Maya confesses he's actually on a trip to sell information about Alvinista, as the city and its prince are under Dow's control, and turns in for the night. The next morning, Crest wakes up to see Maya visiting them, but Klaus stops him from sneak attacking Crest, crying out he's been possessed somehow. As everyone is either seasick or hungover, Crest chases Maya, who is berserking and begs Crest to help him. An armored demon suddenly bursts out of Maya, killing him, as Crest quickly puts it down. Afterwards, Klaus explains one of Dow's demons must have possessed him to try and kill them after learning more about Alvinista, viewing Maya as a grim reminder of Dow's reach. Arriving safely in Alvinista, Klaus suggests before they make a move with Dow's eyes and ears everywhere, they infiltrate the palace and free the captive prince. Looking to Arch as a means to dropping them in under the cover of a moonless night with her flying broom, they sneak past the sentries and defeat the demoness guarding the prince. Freed of Dow's control, the king thanks them as they share they are on a mission to obtain powerful magic and defeat Dow's, and the king shares Alvinista and the neighboring kingdom of Midgards are also in alliance to wage war on Dow's. He gifts them all with items of power, including the Spear of Gungnir and a royal crest, and Klaus specifically requests access to the Morlia mineshaft. They also learn the kingdom of Midgards is researching something to replace magic called Magitech that allows humans to use magic. From the kingdom's magic labs, they learn the locations of multiple spirits, going out and obtaining the aid of the Earth Spirit Gnome, Fire Spirit Afreet, and Water Spirit Indine. Delving deep into the Morlia mines, they find a stone tablet inscribed with primal elven lore that Arch is able to read, describing how to perform a ritual with the 4 elemental spirits. As Klaus gets to work, he succeeds in bringing forth Maxwell, the Lord of the 4 Elements. Before allowing them a pact with Luna, he tests them personally, and after earning his approval, he offers his aid as a summon, while also powering up the Gungnir. Unfortunately, the pact ring they find for Luna is broken, and returning back they are recommended to see a mage named Edward who also researches rings. Before they leave, Cress hears a voice in his head but dismisses it for now, and when they arrive they learn Edward already left on a trip to seek someone strong enough to challenge Dow's. Hurrying to catch up, Cress and Mint are surprised to see Edward's last name is also Morrison, and looks just like the Trinicus Morrison they know. Edward says the ring was forged with a joint effort of a dwarf and elf, and he cannot do much with it, suggesting they go to the Elven City directly next. He recalls their victory in freeing the prince and hopes to find people of their caliber for the impending war, and in response Cress gives Edward the book Trinicus gave him, using it to prove they come from the future, as Edward is shocked to find his own future notes on time travel within. Edward stops him, not wanting to know more about it, since Cress being here in the first place implies things don't go well for him now, but that won't stop him from trying, leaving for now and hoping to meet again. As they prepare to travel to Ymir Forest, they are told pure-blooded elves will not welcome a half-elf, and so Arch waits for them in the inn, but when they arrive in the forest, Cress believes they are being followed. They are granted an audience with Brambert, Lord of the Elves, as Klaus shows them the broken pact ring. He gives them hope that it can be fixed with the black stone of the nearby Heimdall Forest and guides them there. He leads them to another massive stone, also called Ymir, and is said to be the source of all things. It houses the spirit Origin, also known to the elves as Kangaroo, but even Brambert is unsure about all that, but at least knows it has the power to mend things. Beseeching the stone to fix their ring, it works smoothly, and after they finally get Luna, Brambert suggests they go to the Tower of the Zodiac and solicit another powerful spirit there. When they return, the elves have caught Arch sneaking around, for which the punishment is death, but a pink-haired elven woman rushes out to beg for her to be spared, offering her life in exchange. Brambert makes the unpopular decision to allow Arch to be released, and as the party makes a quick exit, Arch suspects that woman is her mother, but is still not allowed to see her. Making their way to the kingdom of Midgard's first, a small sprite surprises them and steals their royal crest, inviting them to come to the Tower of the Zodiac to get it back. Taking a detour, the sprite introduces itself as the fairy Artemis, Luna's gatekeeper, and after putting up with his mischief, Luna allows them to approach her. She returns their stolen royal crest and agrees outright to aid them in their struggle against Daos as the party gains the powerful Moon Maiden spirit. Hurrying back to Midgard's, they rendezvous with Edward and plan their next move against Daos, though Arch openly questions if Daos is really the problem here. As the human kingdom prepares their secret weapon of the war, Magitech, outside Arch brings up again she's skeptical of the talk of Daos' evil design. While it's true he's attacked towns and killed people and monsters serve him, she finds it awfully suspicious that he has merely harassed other kingdoms yet only directly attacked Midgard's. In fact, he's really only attacked and killed the town of Hamel with Rhea's parents, but no other towns, and cannot help but think there is a connection they're not seeing. Cress, however, rejects the notion that Daos is anything but an evil that must be stopped. Arch also has a sudden question to ask her father, and quickly visiting him, she accuses him of lying about her mother being dead, and coming clean, he explains that up until about 10 years ago, elves and humans lived together. The elves suddenly began to hate humans and forbade commingling, choosing to isolate all pure-blooded elves in Ymir Forest. Not all elves felt that way, and so many couples were forcibly separated, like her mother, but the humans were never given a reason why, and so her mother asked him to think of her as dead. Understanding now, Arch then asks if her friend Rhea's parents were connected to Midgard's in some way, and he says that Rhea's parents were from Midgard's and researching some strange power at the castle. Thinking the connection is Magitech, they return to Midgard's just in time to see a powerful demon from Daos cause havoc at the castle. Edward tries to fight him and gets killed, sacrificing himself to blow up with the demon. Cress is outraged at this outcome, reminding Arch that Daos has to be stopped, and Min points out that history as they know it has diverged, since Edward is now no longer around to seal Daos or figure out time travel. Stepping into that role themselves, the group attends the War Room meeting for how the Alliance intends to storm the island Daos is on first, and they need Cress's group to help slow down enemy advancement with tactical strikes, naming Klaus the captain. As the grounds for the largest battle on the continent is prepared, Klaus and company are the tip of the spear, assigned to punch through the lines of enemy defenses and take down the enemy vanguard's commander. They succeed, but this was just a distraction, as a massive aerial force arrives to lay siege to Midgard's castle directly. As the castle prepares its secret Magitech weapon, Cress now hears the mysterious voice in his head again, and this time a rift opens up and swallows him. He is brought before a Valkyrie atop a Pegasus, introducing herself as a servant to Odin, and demanding the spear Gungnir from him, deeming him unfit to wield it. She promises compensation for it, and thinking, he asks her if her horse can really fly. Meanwhile, the castle unleashes its secret weapon, a giant mana cannon, as it takes aim and obliterates a large portion of Daos' sky forces in a single massive blast. At the same time, Martel senses a sudden drop in mana, though fortunately the first shot of the mana cannon overloads the machine and it needs repairs. Cress has now returned alongside the Pegasus and with Gungnir still in his possession, intending to defeat the Sky Commander now. Alongside Arch, the only one among them who can fly, they take to the sky, carving a path forward and defeating the enemy leader on their own. Afterwards, Pegasus leaves to return to Valkyrie along with Gungnir per their deal, and Arch receives the final creation of Edward he left for her, a spell bringing forth the thunder of the gods, Indignation. Returning to the battlefield, the window is now open to storm the castle as the group makes their way to the throne room of the Demon King Daos. As the sorcerer sits on his throne, Cress declares their intent to kill him when Daos brings up he doesn't even know who they are or what they want. Cress says that doesn't matter as they each have reasons to fight him, and Daos remains unimpressed, dismissing them as pawns of Midgard's. Attacking him regardless, their preparation pays off as they defeat Daos in a duel, and caught off guard, Daos gets away by slipping through time before they can end him for good. Winning the war for the kingdom, the group is also given more personal effects from Edward, including a key to a secret library. Within, they find his notes so far in his time travel research, which mentions the ancient sunken city named Thor, where its inhabitants had the technology to time travel already. Edward trusted Klaus to figure out the rest, and carrying on the will of Edward D. Morrison, Klaus agrees to find Thor and figure out time travel. Mint reminds them that before they find Thor and chase Daos through time, they should address the plight of the Yggdrasil tree first. After all, mana is dead in their time, so they would not be able to use magic to defeat Daos. Checking in with Yggdrasil, they see the tree has already begun dying, and though Mint tries her most powerful divine healing on it, it merely slows the decay. Thinking on how to increase her healing power to help more, she recalls her mother telling her about the symbol of the healer, the unicorn, and tells the group she wishes to seek the help of the unicorn in this world. Seeing it means a lot to her, Cress agrees to help as they follow clues to find the unicorn's forest. As the creature will only meet with a pure maiden, Mint goes on ahead, and though Arch knows she doesn't qualify, she at least escorts Mint safely through the forest. A unicorn indeed stands above a lake in the forest as Arch bows out, and Mint begins to explain her need to the mystical beast. Meanwhile, Klaus asks Cress what he thinks about Mint, but Cress doesn't catch his drift, as Klaus suddenly senses something evil in the woods. They hurry to save Mint from minions of Dao's, and afterwards a weakened unicorn chooses to sacrifice itself for Mint's cause, granting her its horn. With the highly concentrated divine healing power, they take it back to the tree, and though it unleashes explosive amounts of healing energy, the tree is brought back from the brink of death and revitalized back to normal. Martel now comes out, thanking them for buying her more time, but says vast amounts of mana are still being consumed, and the group suspects the culprit to be Magitech. Cress wonders if Dao's may actually be trying to destroy Midgards because of its Magitech, and Arch adds it may be because of its power it poses a threat to him. Focusing now on locating Thor, the group travels to the spot in Edward's notes, and with Undine's help they travel to the bottom of the ocean and discover the lost city. A strong barrier surrounds the city to keep water out, though as they hurry to find the time machine they also find strange machines like keycards, scanners, and robots along the way. Finding a room housing a massive device, an AI named Oz welcomes them to the mother computer room, calling itself Cust and allowing them access to its healing and time travel functions. Restoring the city first, it raises Thor back to the surface, and Klaus asks it to send them to the catacombs 102 years into the future. Accepting the request, Cust sends them back to the future, moments after they were sent into the past by Morrison. Dao's recognizes the group but is confused as to how they got here, as the group blitzes him for round 2 of their fight, overwhelming him with their strongest magic and not giving him a second chance to escape this time. The dreaded Dao's indeed falls, but as he does so, a massive amount of energy is released, tearing the catacombs down upon them before they can confirm the kill. Chester, Morrison, and Tristan join them in escaping the blast, as they settle in their victory of finishing a century-long fight. Days pass as Klaus and Arch know they should return back to their original time, though while they say their goodbyes, a sudden wave of meteors crash down nearby. Stranger still, a man warps in via time travel to quickly say he's Harrison, coming in from 50 years in their future, and says that Dao's is back and bringing the world to the brink of destruction, so they need their help. The group wonders if the meteors were also related to Dao's, but more than that, wonders how Dao's is still alive in the first place. Seeing there is still work to be done, the group prepares for another leap through time, and this time Cress invites Chester, who is eager to join the fight, though Arch points out Chester is far weaker than any of them. Using Thor's time machine again, Harrison guides them to where they need to go to the future kingdom of Alvanista. Chester takes Arch's criticism to heart, training extra hard to close the huge experience gap open between him and Cress. To him, the slaughter of their village is still fresh, and he even lets Cress know his younger sister Amy always had a crush on him. Unfortunately, no ships will sail out of fear of Dao's extended reach over the sea, and Harrison decides to show the group the results of a secret Magitech lab nearby. The party now sees manned flying craft that run on magical energy called the Tech Bird, but the lead engineer says they lack the power to fly such a distance like over the ocean. They would need output on the level of the lightning spirit Volt, and Klaus offers to fill that need, as they learn the spirit is nearby the rebuilt town of Tultis named Miguel after Cress's father. Entering the cave for Volt, they walk in on a standoff between ninjas, as one very young girl opposes those siding with Dao's and easily takes down her 2 assailants but flees before the group. Going the same way, they come across her again being ambushed by more ninja, and while they save her, she introduces herself as Suzu, but quickly exits again. Wondering what her deal is, they succeed in finding and forging a pact with Volt, and returning to the lab, are able to power up the Tech Birds. Later they run into Suzu again, who opts to show them the secret ninja village she's from as thanks for their help. They are greeted by the village chief, who insists they relax first in their hot spring, in which Arch marvels at Mint's body, and Chester cannot help but want to verify the claims for research purposes. After Arch puts him down, they meet with the chief, who already knows of the group's activities as he has spies everywhere and is well informed. Unfortunately, Dao's has been kidnapping his spies and brainwashing them to serve him, and so some of the group's movements and assassins in the past have been because of that. In fact, Suzu's parents went missing a few years back, and he asks if they can help locate them, and they agree. Arriving at Alvanista Castle, the king shares that part of their effort to fight Dao's has involved researching the technology and treasure of Thor. What they found is that thousands of years ago there was a war between the 3 kingdoms of Odin, Fenrir, and Thor. Thor was sunk to the bottom of the sea by a meteor strike, and mysterious men wielding awesome power wiped out the other 2 kingdoms off the face of the planet. 3 mighty weapons were used in their endeavor, and it's said that by combining all 3, they can create a magic sword that can control time, and with it, prevent DAOs from slipping into time to escape again. The 3 weapons were the Fire Blade, Ice Blade, and Diamond Pact Ring, and the Spirit Origin is the only one strong enough to merge them. Venturing out, they pay a visit to Martel, who is still alive and well in the future, who shares that one day mana consumption levels just returned to normal suddenly. So much so she could finally rest again, and begins to mention how she was visited by a handsome blonde man who watched over her, when suddenly she is cut off and the group is blasted away. Daos now appears in person before them, recognizing them, and realizing they followed him into the future. He promises to end them, but refuses to do battle here as it would harm the Great Tree, taking his leave. Klaus notes Daos seems even more powerful than before, and Mint noted that it seemed like it was the first time he heard of their time travel. Later they learn from the Spirit Shadow that the people of the Dark have been brainwashed by Daos as he joins them as a summon while they continue on to Thor. Within, they see more unearthed technology, such as a working television with some introspective messaging, and learn that the Spirit of Light, Aska, has also been trapped here. Partnering with the Mighty Spirit, they delve into the resting spots of the twin legendary blades, picking up the Fire Blade Flamberge, which houses the soul of Odin, and enter the Temple of Fenmir to claim the Ice Blade Vorpal Sword from his Fen Beast Guardian. Both parts in hand, they revisit the Spirit Origin and prove their worth to form a summoning pact, but before that they want his help in forging the legendary Blade of Time, the Eternal Sword, in preparation for fighting Daos. Origin chuckles, wondering if they even know why Daos appeared, who he is, where he comes from, or why he's doing what he is. The group admits they actually don't know any of that, but is still confident their own mission is for good and justice. Origin lets that sentiment hang, instead turning to focus on combining the sealed swords of fire and ice and restore the Eternal Sword. Claiming it, new knowledge flows into Crest, and alongside Origin they are ready to rematch Daos, but must first find him. The Kingdom of Alvanista doesn't know where he is either, but has a clue, and while the group travels and rests in a snowy village, Mint breaks off to speak to Crest privately, while Klaus's thoughts start to think of his assistant Millard. With Origin's help, he witnesses her still faithfully waiting for his return, while at the same time Arch and Chester talk and understand they'll never stop bickering. Mint talks to Crest, revealing he picked up her mother's unique earrings from back in the Aqueduct dungeon, and while she knows he lied to her then, she understands and agrees it was the best move to make at that time, and thanks him now for it. As they continue looking for Daos' castle, they run into Brambert again, who explains that times have been changing, and human culture is growing more accepting of elves, and elves are allowing humans in the village, but half-elves are still not accepted. He reveals half-elves have abilities beyond normal elves, such as stronger magic and intellect, and in fact most of the royal scientists are half-elves. However, because elves refuse to help humans develop magitech, half-elves help develop it instead, but because magic technology has put a critical strain on the planet's mana, half-elves were blamed and became symbolic of the failure. While honing his skills in the arena, Crest is surprised to also clash swords with Suzu'S brainwashed parents. Suzu, who has been secretly following them, appears before them to try and break the mind control, and in struggling to break free, her parents resort to killing each other rather than fight her. Distraught but glad her parents chose to die with honor by their own hands, Suzu thanks Crest, and afterwards they meet her back in her village where it turns out she is the chief's granddaughter, and helping her parents was helping him personally too. Both of them also agree to have Suzu step out from the shadows and help them rather than follow them, and though she is just 11 years old, she has proven more than capable, and so the group welcomes her aboard. That night, they rest again in the hot springs, as Crest is impressed how bulked up and fit Chester has gotten from his intense training, and curious, Arch verifies the claims for herself, for research purposes. Venturing deeper still into the mines of Morlia, the tunnels were dug too deep and greedily, as they lead straight to the world of the demons, Niflheim. They are halted by the beast spirit Chameleon, who tells them even Demonium is being threatened by Daos, and Klaus forges a pact with it to help in the fight against the sorcerer. Exploring more, Klaus also tempts the aid of a hungry demon horde spirit named Gremlin's Lair, and finds a sacred dwarven temple lost here. Residing within is the brute king of the underworld, Pluto, that Klaus senses is also a spirit. Forcing the ruler to recognize their strength, Pluto agrees to form a pact with Klaus, and with this the group feels they prepared all they could. Locating the rumored hiding spot for Daos, they find where the castle likely is but cannot see it, thinking it's hidden within time itself. Calling upon the power of the Eternal Sword, they force Daos' castle out of time, and now have a means in. The blade also transports them to the flying castle, and within, the group is met by the strongest minions and traps under Daos. Marching to confront him, Daos is impressed they managed to catch up yet again, and while Crest primes himself for a duel to the death, Min steps forward to speak with him. She asks what he meant last time by him having no reason to fight them, and he replies that it's because none of them have anything to do with the development of magitech. Because Magitech rapidly drains all mana, he has vowed to kill all humans who use it. Klaus wonders if maybe he's committed to protecting the environment, and Daus laughs at the suggestion, explaining he really intends to use the power of mana for his own purposes. He's not here to take over the world and doesn't care about that, and instead is here on a mission to bring back the Mana Seed. Crest declares he doesn't care about Daus' reasons and charges in, quickly striking down the sorcerer. However, Daus gets back up again, laughing and saying for the sake of his people, he will not fall. Crying out to his home world, Darius Karlon, he assumes a giant monstrous form, but is shocked the party is able to defeat this form as well. Refusing to give up, he calls upon the gods of Darius Karlon to bless him with even more power, and receiving it, Daus transforms to an ultimate form. Wagering a battle for the sake of the past, present, and future, the fierce warrior Crest, the vengeful hunter Chester, the wise healer Mint, the master summoner Klaus, the half-elf witch Arch, the prodigious ninja Suzu, and sometimes the magic time-traveling swordsman Rondeline, fight united as they overwhelm the sorcerer from another world. Struck down but unable to escape through time, Daus slouches down, admitting the party has won. As he dies, he surprises the party by asking them what this fight was even about in the first place. Their mission accomplished, the group returns, wondering if Daus really was fighting to save his own world, and maybe they made a mistake. Klaus warns them not to second-guess their effort, as Daus still killed a lot of people, and their belief kept them going. He also points out humans can live without the dangerous Magitech, and still believes one day humans can learn magic too. Min thinks back to what they know, and that a mana seed is produced by the great tree once it has enough mana, and Daus was watching over and protecting the tree until that happened. Thinking Daus' mission was fine, just the way he approached it was wrong, she creates a barrier surrounding the great tree and cuts off its outflow, giving it the opportunity to create a seed. Klaus also doesn't mind finishing Daus' lonely mission for him, and with that their work is finally done. As the game ends, the group prepares to part ways, as Suzu says goodbye to all of her friends from the past. Calling upon the Eternal Sword, Crest uses it to return them to his own time, and upon arrival hands the sword to Klaus, who promises to seal it once he and Arch return to the further past. Arch says this isn't goodbye, as she'll see them again in 100 years thanks to the longevity of her half-elven blood. Klaus knows he won't have that luxury, and so will cherish the good times they shared along the way. Even Chester turns to say goodbye to Arch as Klaus invokes the power of the sword and they warp away. Back in his own time, Klaus embraces his assistant Millard, realizing how much he missed her, and Arch would finally meet and catch up with her mother in the elven village. Crest, Mint, and Chester would return to their daily lives, while elsewhere, Martel would bring forth Daus' body and successfully produce a mana seed. Martel would send the seed and Daus' body up to Darius Karlon, fulfilling the fallen sorcerer's mission, while Crest and the others agree to start rebuilding Tolta's village. Pointing out that when they finish, they can go out and find Arch in this age, the three friends hurry to move forward. Tales of Phantasia has enjoyed the success of selling over 1.6 million copies worldwide.